Welcome to NDTR Spotlight, the corner of the internet where NDTR shine. I'm your host, Maria Lorraine. Today, I have a challenge for all our NDTR listeners. I do not have an NDTR on the podcast. I don't have a registered dietitian on the podcast. Instead, I have Gintara. She is a nutritionist. So she doesn't have the traditional credentials. She's from London, so they have a different system out there. But she reached out and she wanted to be on the podcast. And I was excited to see that she was interested and shared interest in being on this podcast. And there's definitely a stigma. NDTRs definitely know that if you're not a dietitian, people don't want to listen to you. And I don't want NDTRs to have that same stigma. So I wanted to open up this episode to talk to someone who is working in the field of nutrition. She's a weight loss expert. She's a nutritionist. She's a ketogenic wellness coach, and she specializes in imbalances of hormone and thyroid problems. So today, just give a listening ear. We're going to hear her story, hear what she's doing with her business, and see how she's impacting women in London. Gintara, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yes, I'm very excited to dive into your area of expertise. I love the niche you have with the ketogenic diet, and then mapping that up with the hormone balance. It sounds very, very interesting. It gets my nutrition brain thinking. But I kind of want to start off with the transition into the world of nutrition and the title you have as nutritionist and ketogenic coach. What was that process for getting yourself set up to be able to have enough knowledge that you feel comfortable coaching somebody else in nutrition?
Yes, a very good question. It's for sure. Like I was interested in nutrition basically all my life. And since kind of I was struggling at some point in my life with my own weight. I was gaining the weight and I couldn't, there was years ago and I couldn't kind of figure out why and how's that affected. And back in the day, nobody was talking about nutrition that openly how they're talking today. And that then one was before Facebook, all the social media that existed. So it was quite difficult to get information. The only information you could get from the magazines and stuff like that. And I really kind of wanted to dive in, and because it's just purely because that type of person I am. Like when I need information, I need deep, I need everything. I want to know everything. And it's kind of like for me to get that information, I needed to study basically. And this is where I kind of started my journey. I started studying as a nutritionist coach. I started as a ketogenic wellness coach because I just purely wanted information to start with myself to understand everything better. And few years later, I decided kind of explore it even more and help other people, other women especially. And it's just kind of like when I started studying, it wasn't kind of my basically my point, my destination. It was just purely for me. But then I saw how many other people struggling and how badly they struggling, and they felt like literally lost. They didn't know what they're doing, where to start. It's very overwhelming, and this is where I kind of shifted, and I decided to start helping other people.
Yeah, I love that you had that passion to figure out it for yourself, to see if it worked for yourself. And so, with the nutrition ketogenic coach and the nutrition title that you hold in London, what was it, like a course online that you had to take? How did you find the
Yeah.
course to take to be able
So
to?
I
Yeah.
was yeah. So I was looking for like searching for information. Like and everywhere I because the questions I always had it like it's everywhere that approach it was whether courses sort of like I need to it's not like easy sort of available information. It's just basics available like when you're Googling. But for me, I was more interested into deeper go, and I came a few courses and I decided kind of to basically study, go into the courses and to see what's in there. What it's just kind of my curiosity. So yeah, I basically got online
Yeah.
course.
Nice. Okay. So I think this is where a lot of DTRs can learn from you, because we have the credential, we do the schooling, but then getting out and coaching and finding clients and making it into something bigger than just the schooling or a job where you need the credential, but building something on your own and finding those clients. What was that process of starting to coach individuals who you said were kind of lost like you and not knowing what to do with the little bit of information that was really out there and easily accessible?
It's you starting building business, it's not easy, it takes time. And the end of the day, like, when someone else buying something from you, you buy I'm the product, basically. I don't have a physical product to sell. It's I'm selling my services. I'm helping, that's what I offer. And I started with the weight loss just purely because of my journey, and I saw like what they other people were starting, kind of going through, and the comments they were making, like in on the Facebook groups, and just generally whatever they were looking for help. And I kind of felt really like, for I always take everything for granted just because I know I expect everyone else knows it, and it's kind of, for me, it's like common sense, and but it's not the case. They don't know, and for them is a lot of confusing. A lot of people think that they're eating health, and which they don't. And this is where I kind of start, making a sort of comments, and this is where the people started to reach out to me. And yeah, so basically that was kind of my journey. It's just reaching out, giving that sort of, tips to people, how can they tweak it, substituting out, the foods, what is some particular foods maybe the beneficial for them, what is healthy, what is not, what is the good carbs, what is the bad carbs. And yes, it's a lot of, giving us sort of a little bit some info to other people.
Yeah, it sounds like it's finding that line of like how much to give away for free and then how much do you need to be like, okay, now this is actually worth something. I need to be compensated so I can actually sit alongside and help you. How did you find that line?
It's very difficult. It is very difficult. Like, and I think I still struggle with that, because I kind of that type of person that I would like to give it all, and when I start talking, it's like I like to talk, and it's hard to stop. And it's like, okay, this is I need to, and I could see like from the person's basically face, it gets a little bit like not overwhelming, but it kind of is, because I could see there is like, the face expression that, that I'm giving now. There is a lot of information for that person is trying to catch it, everything, and they obviously they didn't know about this, they didn't know about that. And this is like, and obviously it takes time. And I'm like, okay, this is where I need to stop now, because it gets a little bit overwhelming for a person, and then obviously like they're getting to know me. And again, is like, you know, am I the right fit for that person, and whether that person is the right fit for me as well. It's worked both ways. And yeah, so this is kind of, it's a challenging for sure.
Yeah, it does sound like that tightrope of like finding that line and kind of figuring out the best situation. I like how you said if it's a right fit for you and for that person to really make sure that goals are being met and being reached. And so so you started off with weight loss, but then there's this component of the ketogenic diet is kind of what you have on your website, and then also some thyroid and hormone imbalances. So let's
Yeah.
kind of dive into that. I'm super curious in this audience, nutritionists, NDTR, so we know some of the science. So feel free to like get a little nerdy with us and kind of explain how that comes together for your clients.
Well, what it is, it's a lot of like, I love ketogenic diet. And the reason I love it, because it's very simple, and it's the real foods that, and what it is, it reminds me how I was eating basically when I was growing up, what kind of, food my parents gave me, how they fed me. And we didn't have anything processed back in the day, and everything was just natural, and that's where you were getting it. Whereas
Mhm.
these days you get everything, overrated. Like back in the day, if you want to have a yogurt and with the berries, you have a plain yogurt and you put fresh berries on the top of it. Now these days you have different type of yogurts, and they different type of flavors, and they loaded with sugars. Well,
Mhm.
whereas back in the day we didn't have that. So you improvise it. Whereas, and this is where it's kind of people start struggling with the weight gain. And the reason I chose ketogenic diet, because that would help me to control my weight. And then a few years later, I was diagnosed with a hypothyroidism. And obviously, as everyone knows, as a side, well, not everyone, some people know, as a side effect, you get a gain weight is one of the side effects. And it's not easy. It's for a healthy person to lose weight is quite difficult. And for a person with underlying health condition, it doesn't make any easier. It makes it harder. And this is where I found that the only way kind of helped me to control my weight and feel amazing. Because obviously weight gain is just one of the side of the effects. It's, you get so many of them, and it's energy levels and the fatigue and, the hair loss. It's so many of them. And I found that this diet, it helped me balance it out. It helped me balance, even to get my blood test, my all my hormones, my T4, my T3, and to get in the balance. And especially, like, with the hypothyroidism, like, you get fatigues, you have no energy. And when I'm talking about no energy, that you cannot even get out of the bed. And that kind of really helped me. I was suffering a little bit with the brain fog as well. I could not kind of concentrate. I was finding difficult with the concentration and memory. Obviously, like, you're reading and you just, like, you read it and nothing's there, and I'm like, you're reading again, it's like, where am I, like, and that helped me tremendously. And this is where I know for sure that a lot of people are very skeptical. And the reason about the ketogenic diet, and the reason is because on the social media, this keto diet has been taken completely out of the content. It's completely been promoted in such a bad way that it's I don't have even words to describe it. And this is where, for me, when I came across, this is why I studied as well as a ketogenic wellness coach, because I was very curious, because it's not easy to understand diet. It's not like, it's not calorie deficit based. And it's not, if a person who's not even nutritionist, it's very difficult to get the head around. And because obviously I want to know everything, I studied, and it opened my eyes, because what I saw it on the social media, what is out there, and how they promote and how they advertising what recipes is out there, that every single recipe contains cheese and bacon. And I could not get my head around it. And how is that possible? And when I actually studied that ketogenic diet, is completely different for what is out there. And you do need to know what you're doing, because there is a possibility that, well, if you're going to eat all the cheese that is in the world and the bacon, you can, go wrong way, wrong direction. Can that lead you? So you do need to know what you're doing, and it can be extremely helpful, especially, for your health, for your energy. But yeah, you need to know what you're doing.
Yeah,
And
the ketogenic definitely is trending, and I know in the dietetics world, a lot of dietitians, a lot of DTRs do not like it at all. But there definitely is a lot of weight to it and importance to it. And the media, I love that you mentioned how the media is like is really getting the marketing, and the food companies are getting behind it. And so they're making a lot of ketogenic processed foods, and so you have all these extra chemicals added in, and it takes away from what you're saying, the heart of just that clean, simple eating. I do want to ask, though, just for some clarification. So with the ketogenic diet, there is, I think, because of the way it's marketed, there's a lots of different ways people define and way people follow it, and how it's educated on. And so some people are very strict. So there's the ketogenic diet that is more to treat seizures. And so it's very, very low carb and it's really keeping those ketones up. And so the carb, I'm blanking on the number, but it's an extremely low, like maybe 25 grams a day, something very
Yeah.
low like that. Is that the definition of ketogenic diet that you are
This is
working with?
I'm doing quite flexible for myself. So it's to sustain on that is very difficult. It's very difficult. It's what I do is basically depends of my goal. Like if when I started, obviously I was doing quite under, I was staying for like 20 grams of carbs to kind of give me to get into, obviously, to get the ketones. And once you reach your weight goal, and it's fine, it's very flexible. You don't have to be, in the ketosis. It's not always I'm in the ketosis. Most of the time I'm not in the ketosis, guys. I'm all right. I'm happy with, how I look, how I feel, who I am. But it helps me, it gives me the clarity, the more how carbs, what sugar does to our body, what the glucose does, and how much it gives me the balance, how much I could take it, basically how much I could have a carbohydrates and what type of carbohydrates. So because a
Mhm.
lot of people think that carbohydrates is like just the pasta and potatoes and rice. They're not aware of that. Where is the carbs? And I'm always say you don't have to be in the ketosis. you know you can be, you can follow ketogenic diet, but your carb intake is quite high. You could be like a 50 grams or above 50, 60. It depends, because obviously for some people it's quite hard. But obviously then if you go in the high in the carbs, you're not gonna hit the ketones. You're not gonna have in the ketosis, but it still affects. But it
Mhm.
doesn't mean that you could have to start like buying keto this, keto that. It's not, keto diet is not about replacing the things. It's about eating clean food.
Yes. I
And
love that you said that, not about
now,
replacing the things. Yes.
yes, and this is goes out with any diet out there. It's not about the replacing, you know, normal bread with a keto bread. It's still processed. It's not, it's keto diet is about avoiding the processed food, because being with the hypothyroidism, your diet is basically, as I say, is brutal, is vital. And because you have a hypothyroidism, you basically need to cut out processed food like as much as you can, to basically to everything to cut out, because processed foods affect your hormones, and this is where it's already out of control. So you need to keep everything in balance. So eliminating processed food is vital.
Vital component. Yeah. And so, yeah, it sounds, I like that you have that flexibility because I think that's what is needed. I know when I am working with clients, we also kind of dive into, we call it low carb. It's a low, we follow,
Yeah,
it's like a low carb, but it's very similar to
yeah.
what you're saying in that realm. It's just a different way of kind of defining it. And so having them, our clients be metabolically fluid, being able to burn the ketones and then come out of it. And you're right, you have to really be mindful of the carbs that you're eating because like you're saying, that brain fog and the tiredness and the fatigue and all the sugar in the yogurt, it's really the sugar that's affecting insulin, which probably is, I haven't looked into the research for hyperthyroidism and the hormones and the sugar aspect of it, but it's so inflammatory. So it's really
Oh,
cool to hear you having this really high standard for your clients of like no processed food. And you're not just eating cheese and bacon on the ketogenic
no,
diet.
yeah,
You can
that's the
have those, but that's not
No, no,
it.
and this is a thing. It goes, yes, I love a keto diet because over there I can eat the bacon. I'm like, just because you can eat bacon and cheese, it doesn't mean that you must eat bacon and cheese. Everything is in moderation.
Yeah.
No matter
Mhm.
whether you are, even whether you are healthy or not. It's as we getting older, our metabolism, it doesn't work the way it worked when we were in our 20s. So everything comes in moderation. But just because the social media, they put such a misleading information, and it just really makes me angry. And when I'm kind of strict to myself, like about my health, because I will do whatever I need to do, whatever it takes to optimize my health. My
Mhm.
health is number one, comes always. And if I need to eliminate processed food, I will eliminate processed food. I will have a treat now and then, obviously, as we all humans, that as I
Mhm.
said, there is always, birthdays, there is holidays, there is vacations, it's alive, right? We live. But I always say, it cannot be every day a Christmas day.
Yeah.
That's why, and it's a lot of people because these days, every single days, everything is available. You go in the supermarket and you get whatever you wanted all year round. And they just kind of, oh, I fancy this, I feel it like that. And it's just like, oh, I eat healthy, but I don't lose weight for some reason. It doesn't work. And then you started like digging deep in that. And it's like, that healthy is not that really healthy, what you're thinking about it, and
Yeah.
so yeah, I kind of a little bit, as you say, I'm strict to my clients, no processed food, that's it,
Yeah. Just take it away.
yeah.
Yeah, it's this is probably selfish of me to say, but being in America and the United States more specifically, we definitely have a status quo of being very overweight. But it sounds like the same problems are happening across the ocean
Yes,
over, which is
yes,
sad. But I'm happy that there's people like you over there who are like, wait a second, like no.
because
So
what
it's a
it like,
global issue.
absolutely, is a couple months ago, United Kingdom was basically like announced that is the fattiest country in Europe.
Wow.
Like, and it was just a couple months ago. So it is that kind of, and when when I teach my or speak with my clients as well, the reason I kind of go hard on them is just purely because I wanted them to realize what sugar, to not just to realize, to for them to feel physically what sugar does to their body. When I start
Mhm.
eliminating sort of like a processed foods and obviously like minimizing carb intake, they get like wake up call. They they get like they feel, obviously they like never felt like that before.
Mhm.
And it's just, actually it's a learning curve for them as well, because
Yes.
they didn't realize, like, obviously I always preach read the labels, and what to look for. It's not just like you're reading labels, what are you looking for, what do I look for, not all of them know. And for all these hidden sugars in a food that you never thought like sugar consumes. And at the same time, companies changing their recipes, their ingredients. And whereas before some things didn't consume sugar, now it does. Or there was maybe
Mhm.
less sugar, now they increase the dose of the sugar. So it's all of that. And yeah, so my kind of clients, I'm kind of being strict to them, but later on they kind of thank me. And I'm like, look, you don't have to be so strict for the rest of your life, but
Yes.
it's a learning curve. You need to understand where is it and what it does to you, so you know the difference. You can compare yourself while you were on the kind of eliminating sugar, how you felt, how you feel, like what it did to your basically, mentally, like your clarity, your weight, your energy. And when you were consuming all these foods that you thought they were healthy, and how you felt, that what back then. So it's like two different people. So it gives them awareness.
Yeah, I love that you're strict with them in the beginning because that's when things change. And if you're not strict with clients in the beginning and they're like, well, everything, I guess I should say more so, there's a stigma of like everything in moderation. And that's what they come in thinking. And they're like, well, I can have moderation. It's like, no, right now we're trying to clean out the system and get your body
Yes.
reset. So you have to be strict now. Once you have that foundation of health, then like you said, you can increase the carbs. You can, and then coaching your way out of such a strict carbohydrate restriction is really important. So do you do that with your clients, like
Yeah.
work through them? Because I've seen a lot of times people on the ketogenic diet, they get off it and they go with carbs with a vengeance and they go back to how they were and they gain all that weight back. So how do you prevent that for your coaching clients?
So you see, I always introduce them, I always explain them how sort of to introduce like the carbs back in it. But as you say, like they're going raging on the carbs. And this is another problem, which actually it is basically a relationship with your food.
Mhm.
It's like where do you stand? Because it's a lot of, it's not just about being diet. It's no point being like put you know on a strict kind of diet, and then you're going all back in from where you were before, from the beginning, back to square one. And this is where basically purely like goes down to relationship with your food. What you basically, are you emotional eater? Are you
Mhm.
stress eater? Can you say literally stop? Basically, if I give you a whole piece of a whole cake, and if I give you, a small slice of cake, and then put the rest of it in the fridge, are you able to say no? Do you have self control to that?
Mhm.
And this is where is mentally kind of sort of that piece comes in, which I go through as well during the programs.
So I love that you have that kind of transition with your clients and that mental component of the food or the emotional eating, because that is definitely something you have to talk through and coach through. And so with your clients, what success do you have with them? How do you keep them in the program? What's your design for getting them in, and like how many weeks do you work with them? I'm sure our NDTR audience would be curious to know kind of that setup.
So it depends. So it's again, as I always have a conversation with them first, whether I'm a right fit for them and they are right fit for me. And I normally have a two programs, which one of them is a 28 days and another one is a 3 months. 28 days is sort of for a person who kind of has already knowledge and he knows, like, or he or she knows what they're doing. It's kind of like the easy train, that kind of person. They're determined and they're on a mission. So they do what as you told them. Whereas,
Mhm.
3 months, it's for the very beginners. For them is, you need to kind of, for them, make them to understand, for them to get their heads around. And for those kind of people, like, they need accountability. For them it takes longer. And obviously, 3 months program is a long, and it's a longer, but whereas more, you could see more process, whereas a 28 day is more like not just for the fitness people, but where they want to have that kind of an extra kick. Whereas what do I do, and I was like, okay, let's come off the sugar, and then you're gonna have that kick, and they see that. But they very, mind focus. They got the goal, they see it, and they go for it.
Mhm.
Whereas not everyone is like that. Not everyone, they need a lot of people, maybe, obviously personalities are different, and they need more support, more accountability, more, hold their hand to explain them. And everyone is busy, someone's having like kids, with the husbands or wives, and life gets in the way. So for them, the longer, program is much better, it's more rewarding for them.
Mhm. Mhm. That makes sense. That's a good, I love that you have that short and then that long term, so you can kind of get all the clientele set up with that. And so would you share, do you have any like insiders for our NDTR audience and people in this field on like how just to set that up and how to organize and be productive and successful in having your own coaching business as a nutritionist? You don't have to give away all your secrets, but maybe just one.
It's oh my god, it's like one, you just need to be organized, I think.
Mm,
You need to be organized. You need to know, it's starting business is not easy. It's overwhelming for sure, and you need to do your research. And always, as I always say, do what you love. Do
mhm,
where is your passion, where is it stands, is not just, never do just because, just for the money. Never do that, because it just, you know you will run out, you will burn out, and you need to just do purely what you love and do from your heart.
organized and have the passion for it. Those are two good takeaways. And I feel like people in nutrition usually have a really strong passion for it because the money doesn't just come out come out the sky. You do have to work for it and know your stuff, like you're saying, and then have those coaching skills to be able to get a client to work through with you and see progress happening.
Yeah, for sure.
It sounds like you are doing some really great things out there in London and really helping clients. So I really appreciate your time coming and sharing with us. And it's really cool hearing how you are, cutting down sugar and helping people all over London. And so how can people, if other NDTRs or other people listening to the podcast want to get in contact with you, maybe pick your brain a little bit more or just see a little bit more about what you're doing, how can they find you online?
So I do have a website, which is www.ketogenic-wellness.com, or they can reach me directly by emailing me, which is hello@ketogenic-wellness.com. And yeah, so drop me an email and I will get back to you.
Perfect. Well, Gintara, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being willing to share what you're doing with this podcast and our audience. And yeah, I'll be following you and seeing what you're doing online and stuff.
Thank you for
Anything
having.
else? Yeah, anything else you want to share before we close out?
No, for the people who like needs a nutritionist or whatever, like trying to get their heads around, I always say, make a peace with your food.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening to that podcast. If you're into the ketogenic diet or more so a low carb diet, love to hear your thoughts on it. I definitely think it's super big right now because there's really cool, fast emerging things that are happening health wise for clients and DTRs, dietitians and nutritionists who are coaching and educating and counseling on kind of that way of eating. And so give this video a like, give the podcast a like. We'd love to hear a review. And of course, we have our merchandise that you can totally check out. I'll leave a link or you can find it in the show notes if you're listening to this on the podcast. Appreciate your support, appreciate your listening ears, and hopefully you guys enjoy being DTRs because we're spotlighting them, even though this one wasn't necessarily a spotlight, but it's about the field. It's about the field of nutrition. We're just one big happy family. All right, guys, we'll see you in the next podcast.